Hi, this is a practice run. This is Mike up in Woodend, Mike Flavel. Flavel really is the correct pronunciation, and not that that's important, but the important thing is, for me, having just turned 80 back in April, I found that it was one of the most difficult celebrations to have. In the past, I've been able to celebrate my big O's with gusto, lots of booze, and friendships, which to some extent are still enduring. But the last 3 or 4 years up here in Woodend have been an absolute eye-opener to me in terms of where I'd say rural Victoria or rural Australia is quite different to where I was brought up in metropolitan Melbourne. The glorious part of Melbourne in those days, back in those days, was Bayside, which included starts, I reckon, say St Kilda, all the way down to say Mordialloc, and beyond now. But in my days of being brought up, that was about the extent of how far you went, because it was how far you could ride your bike, and how far your old car would go. And if somebody lived too far away, they become GI, geographically impossible. We didn't have, in fact, when I was a young boy, I think our house in Cheltenham Road, Black Rock, was the only one with a telephone. So people would come to our place to make phone calls, and so this is a far cry from today, when every mortal soul on earth has a device which they can speak to the rest of the world. This is one little point I'm about to make, is because in recent times, because of the car situation I've got, that I've been using public transport, and as I wait in a queue or as I jump on the train, I see 99% of the people with their heads in these fucking devices. And I ask myself, what on earth are they listening to or talking, or who are they talking to, or what influence is coming down the line, knowing that big tech and the others, and those running it, have an agenda to destroy our value systems, which I was brought up with. I'm not going to explain those value systems, but they were based on freedom. Freedom to speak, freedom to walk, freedom to run, freedom to be home late at night, so long as we respected our parents' desires, and to a large extent do what we did within the legal framework. If we were speeding our cars, we got pulled over and fined. If we got too drunk, we got breathalyzed. All in the good, all in the need to protect other people's lives from some stupidity. I've been part of that stupidity myself from time to time. But I think the last 3 or 4 years to me has highlighted an amazing amount of power which exists with so few people. And it comes back to what was probably started back 100 years ago, when the Rockefellers and their merry men all got together and designed what is called the fiat money system. Nothing new, it was around in Roman days too, but they made it a very powerful system whereby they could just put a value on the dollar, nothing to do with any real value. It was valued against gold at one stage, but that was taken away in 1971 by Nixon, but it was done prior to that by the Bank of London before World War I, because the wars cost money and they didn't have enough gold to back their pounds or their dollars, so they just printed more money. As we know, they printed a heap a day during COVID, and I believe that COVID probably, well, I don't believe, I know it was a manufactured situation. Don't call it even a disease, because they manufacture. If you look at the timelines, most of the patents on all of the so-called vaccines were taken out long before COVID started, and so to me, it's exposed in a grand style just how much bullshit that most of the people took on board and complied with the testing, which was proven to be inaccurate, the incessant daily barrage of information from government officials and government authorities and governments and other people of notoriety or supposed fame, all submitting and making us unjabbed feel quite ostracised as not doing what is in the general good of the community. Well, as it's turned out now, that us unjabbed people are the ones who are probably going to survive without major illness, except as we get old, there's a few bits don't work so well in my case, but just the knees and a few other little bits and pieces, but nothing all that serious as pericarditis or cancers, which are now topping the list of things which are affecting people, and I think, from my observations, affecting their cognitive capacity to think even. So I might be wrong on this. Maybe it's my cognitive stuff that's failing. I don't know. But anyway, there's a few things which I think need to be raised in this one. Let's take a couple of the big lies that have taken place in my lifetime, and what they call them false flags now. But one of them was the Kennedy shooting. That's so obviously a blatant lie and something which was done to create a situation of fear among the population. The next big one in my book was the 9/11 situation, whereby it was supposedly those tall buildings were supposedly knocked out by a couple of rogue aeroplanes. That'd be like a tiger moth hitting a small office block. It's just impossible. And when you look at the videos and you look at the amount of information whereby those buildings just crumbled down in their own footprint. And if you look at older videos of how they demolish buildings in a controlled fashion, that's exactly how they come down. And there's just so much factual evidence to show that 9/11 was an inside job, and that it was done in order to raise a fear-mongering, or to raise fear among the population that the USA was under attack from people, from Osama bin Laden, basically a caveman. And so that's finished up where the US have been able to go to war in Iraq and other places and virtually bomb the shit out of people who they claim are evil. I'm going to look at what the USA have been able to pull off. Oh, another false flag. Not so much a false flag, but an event which was used to advantage was Pearl Harbor, where it was known months and months before that the Japanese were about to launch an attack on Pearl Harbor, but the authorities, those in power at the time, decided not to alert anybody to that fact because they needed an excuse to join World War II with the Brits and other parts of Europe against Hitler and Germany. So these things just go on, and here we get to we've got in Australia, we've had our own little false flag down in Port Arthur, whereby a supposed guy with mental deficiencies shot 20 odd people between the eyeballs from the hip with a military rifle, something which just about impossible to do. So, and I haven't looked at the official story, but it just seems incredible because immediately after that, what I thought was one of our better Prime Ministers, Johnny Howard, who must have been in on the act, decided or mandated that we return all our guns. And so I dutifully fell into step with his request, and I had a .22 rifle which I used to go rabbit shooting with years ago. Had no real reason for it, but why would he want to take all the guns off us? And so these guys have been around for a long time, planning what they were able to pretty much pull off with I call it the plandemic, a planned health crisis, and look at what happened. And with lockdowns, masks, mandating that people get the jab so that they can join others at their workplace. I was told just the other day that Telstra in Melbourne still insist that in order to go into their building that you must have been jabbed. So they're still following the mandate. And when you jump on a train around Melbourne, it is still saying wear a mask when you're on public transport. And we see signs of the old signs of social distancing still in the footprint. So it's all there in black and white and full technicolor to see just how much crap we've been fed, and where such a large proportion of the people complied. And now we're seeing that the press, the mainstream media, they're not saying a thing about the excess deaths which are occurring and the illnesses which are occurring, because they don't want to be, they've been programmed, conditioned, cajoled, and sometimes threatened by being given the sack if they were to reveal the truth. And you look at a magazine like this, which has been around for a long time actually, and I used to wonder how these people were so insightful as standing for this magazine here. Is just full of really great information. So I was reading, you've only got to follow the money. Look at that one. Who looks after the WHO? The World Health Organization. And Bill Gates is second after the US as the biggest contributor, and all his merry men. So how can one guy like Bill Gates, who funds and supports the vaccine program, be a truthful and honest character? It's just begs. It's just so damn obvious to me that 80% of the population got hoodwinked or were mandated by a bloody lie. And then we see the amount of cover-up that's taken place. And I think we also have to remember that in the lies that we've become used to, even told ourselves from time to time, is if we don't tell the whole truth and we leave bits of a story out, that's an implied lie. So mainstream media are leaving out the stuff that's really important to all of us to maintain a healthy view on life in mind, body and spirit. So it's just beyond the pale. So I'm suggesting that each of us develop our story like this one, and that we go bravely into social media or even on a platform in the park and just start speaking through a megaphone, where we might a few people are going to wonder what on earth's Mike talking about now. I've got to be able to talk to my family, my sailing buddies, my mates, my ex-wives, anybody who wants to listen and hear some truth. Now, I'm far from a perfect individual. I've told plenty of lies in my 80 odd years. Not deliberate lies, but I've certainly left out part of the truth. And I remember once when I was working for corporates, that we were actually trained in the art of, or trained in what happens when a microphone is shoved up in front of you in a public arena and you're asked to comment on a certain subject. And I remember doing this. I won't tell you what my subject was, but it was fairly controversial. And I made my remarks and I was speaking my truth. I raved on for about 10 or 15, or probably about 5 or 10 minutes. And then the trainer played back to me a 1-minute clip which has been doctored to distort what I'd said. And they were my words coming out of my mouth, which would have been accepted as Mike's truth. But they just didn't, nothing about the other 5 or 6 minutes that I'd qualified my remarks by saying. So this is the place we stand in, and there are plenty of people who believe like I do. And I pray every day to God, the universe, wherever it is that's where I can get my inner strength from, to make remarks such as this, which are Mike's remarks, not passing down videos of experts, but just being able to speak as I'm speaking now. Let's all learn how to speak our mind without fear, and if those people who don't like us, that's their problem, not ours, because the next 10 or 15 years are going to be mayhem, absolute mayhem, if these bastards take control. 15-minute cities, what a joke. Climate change, what a fucking joke. What an absolute load of bullshit. Already my bank statements, or my app on the phone is measuring my carbon footprint, and they know exactly how much fuel I buy. They're saying even my food shopping is leaving a carbon footprint. Holy shit! So they're in the process of just softening us up to restrict our travel, to restrict the type of cars we'll drive. And I've got a 3.6 litre 20-year-old Holden. She's a bit of a gas guzzler, but it's only the cost of me upgrading to a $30,000 or $40,000 car is something beyond which I don't want to do. And to think of the carbon footprint that a replacement car is going to put on the thing. It's got metal, it's got plastics, it's got rubber, it's got all sorts of shit, and full of little computers. The new ones are full of computer chips, which when they stop, it's like when your computer stops, nobody knows how to fix it except the guy who built the computer. Whereas in the days of a carburetor, you could see a bit of fuel leaking out, so you'd either put a new carburetor on or you'd fix the problem, because it was so visibly obvious. Now everything's hidden in a little chip which is smaller than the end of your follicle on your hair. It's incredible. Nobody can see what's going on, but we can certainly feel it. And I just observe the cars on the side of the road these days. They're all pretty much less than 10 years old, full of computer chips. It'll be no surprise to me whatsoever that if the powers that be want to stop all the motor cars, they'll just flip a switch on their phone or on a device somewhere, and everything will grind to a halt, because they just decommission the car. other day, a few weeks ago, I went to get some fuel, and I put about 10 litres in, and the pump stopped. I thought, oh, what's going on here? I thought it must have been a electrical fault somewhere, or a blackout. And I went inside, and she said the cameras couldn't read the number plate on my car because it had been scratched a bit. And so they turned the pump off. Now, if they can turn the pump off when I've only got 10 litres in a 50-gallon tank, they can do that at will in future, just because they reckon they can't read the number plate on the car. But it won't need that in the future. It'll just, after 10 litres, because it'll know who I am via my number plate, and say, this guy filled up only 2 days ago, now he's filling up again. We can't let him do that, he's got to go back home now. But Jesus, this is because the technology exists to do this. It doesn't need a human intervention. So we've got to be making people aware of what these bastards are doing who are totally unelected. The World Health Organisation, the WEF, all those pricks, God save me. We've got to come up with a voice, oh my gosh, the voice, but express our views with feeling and compassion. Anyway, that's my rant for today. Bye now.